Are you curious about Ripple XRP's hidden influence? This expose will blow your mind. Ready for a wild ride through Ripple's journey? It starts in 2012, when Ripple Labs was born. By 2013, they launched XRP, a digital asset designed to transform global payments. Fast forward to 2015, Ripple partners with some of the world's biggest banks. 2017, XRP's value skyrockets. Then 2020 hits. The SEC sues Ripple, claiming XRP is an unregistered security. XRP's value plummets, but Ripple fights back. By 2023, Ripple wins a major court victory and investors cheer. Now in 2024, Ripple's making waves again. Central banks are testing Ripple's technology for digital currencies.
While Bitcoin fanatics obsess over outdated narratives, a global elite is orchestrating a financial revolution that could leave XRP holders in utter disbelief. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on a plan so audacious, it could flip the entire financial system on its head. In a world where the mainstream buzz is all about Bitcoin, the real power players are quietly working on something far more disruptive.
So understanding how the monetary system actually works is not that difficult, and when you learn to understand it, you will do the opposite of everybody else. Why do you think 99% of people run this way as the 1% goes this way? It's all by design. As interest rates are skyrocketing, inflation is going through the roof, what's happening is the elites are moving their money into cash, waiting for the markets to collapse. When the markets collapse, as Warren Buffett says, when there's blood in the streets, those are the greatest opportunities for new investors or seasoned investors to buy companies who are real fundamental, real world solve companies at very, very low prices.
Let's set the stage. Over the past few years, Bitcoin maxis have been in full force, relentlessly pushing the Bitcoin narrative as if it were the end-all, be-all of digital money. You see them everywhere, blinded by an agenda that conveniently distracts everyone from the seismic shifts taking place behind the scenes. I recently dove into this deception in another video. 100% proof that Bitcoin is less a beacon of financial freedom and more the biggest smokescreen in history. And behind that smoke is a plan that's been quietly unfolding, targeting XRP and every other digital asset with a real-world use case. Take a look back at this video Black Swan Capitalist posted just the other day. A former Goldman Sachs executive bluntly stated that central banks are deliberately dragging the dollar down. The intent? To pave the way for a new system that consolidates the world's finances under one all-digital framework. Sounds like a science fiction plot? Think again. This isn't about launching a new cryptocurrency, it's about overhauling money itself. And guess what? Ripple and XRP are at the epicenter of this seismic shift.
With the level of the levies we're seeing in the U.S. and China placing on each other, a 10% base rate in place, sectoral tariffs to contend with as well. What kind of growth hit are we talking about already, even without the highest of the highest rates kicking in for all countries?
Well, we are seeing already still seeing people buying ahead of tariffs. Those who can will buy ahead of tariffs. Others are hunkering down. And so this is sort of that sort of mixed economic message that we're hearing from the soft versus the hard signals. And I think that's important. But the other issue is, as we look at this going forward, it doesn't take much of an extension of this to sadly get us into the pull forward on demand and the sort of stacking up of inventories. There's been a lot of that going on as well. That sets us up for weaker growth going forward, and we actually have the economy going into a shallow recession later this spring and into the summer, and the Fed not being able to cut its interest rates in terms of short-term interest rates until the end of the year.
While Bitcoin continues to capture the imagination of everyday investors, it's nothing more than a glorified gateway, a distraction designed to sedate the masses. I'm not the only one sounding the alarm on this. In a segment from a recent discussion featuring an ex-Goldman Sachs exec, he laid it out plainly. Central banks are stalling the decay of the dollar just long enough to usher in a new and consolidated financial ecosystem. This isn't about a new currency, it's about a complete transformation of how money moves. And if you think that's just high-level economic talk, take a closer look. For decades, the dollar has been that comfortable, outdated reserve currency, and now the powers that be are frantically preparing to retire it in favor of something radically different. A system that it's all digital and unburdened by the volatility and limitations of old-school fiat. There's a reason why names like Ripple, XRP, and other scalable digital assets keep cropping up in this conversation. These projects aren't busy chasing speculative gains. They are built on technology engineered for real-world application, massive transaction speeds, near-instant settlements, and an ability to support the kind of volume that traditional financial systems can only dream of. Bitcoin and Ethereum? Let's be honest, they're all talk when it comes to handling everyday payments at scale. They can't support the massive digital infrastructure that's coming, and that's why they're nothing but a smokescreen for what's really coming down the pipeline.
I say gold and silver are God's money because God put it here. But Bitcoin is people's money. It's the blockchain technology. And I'm afraid I don't have any proof of this, but they'll use central bank money to surveil you. That's what China does. So they know what you're spending your money on. They're going to use our money as a surveillance tool. I'm afraid of that. So that's why I own tons of silver coin.
Now let's talk specifics. A video circulating online recently shone a light on the stark contrast between Bitcoin's astronomical hype and the actual disruptive plans underway. In the video, a commentator laid it out. For decades, these crypto maximalists have been pushing Bitcoin as the savior of finance. But what if Bitcoin isn't meant to be the future? What if it's only useful as a transitional asset, a way to distract us from the impending collapse of the old financial order? The truth, as I see it, is that while Bitcoin continues to make headlines, the real innovation lies with XRP and other utility projects that possess tangible, scalable solutions. The irony is palpable. Bitcoin has dominated the conversation for so long that many fail to notice its shortcomings. It can't handle large-scale transactions, and its design was never intended for the level of utility that modern financial ecosystems demand. Meanwhile, newer projects like Ripple have been quietly perfecting technology that can transform everyday financial transactions into fast, secure, and efficient digital exchanges. For example, Ripple's network is already moving hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, something completely out of reach for Bitcoin's archaic framework. And while Bitcoin maxis may scoff at these claims, the numbers and the facts speak for themselves.
You didn't know this about XRP.
Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency developed, and the vision set out in Satoshi Nakamoto's paper is a very compelling one, right? And it looks at creating a more sovereign, decentralized financial system and currency, right? XRP was the second cryptocurrency developed. It was developed after Bitcoin, created by Bitcoin developers themselves to solve some of the issues they found with Bitcoin with regards to scalability, energy usage, and features that Bitcoin didn't support, like decentralized exchanges, tokenization, real-world assets, that sort of thing, right? So XRP and the XRP ledger offers faster transaction times and a higher scalability. Unlike Bitcoin, it's not inflationary, it's deflationary, and has a fixed supply, right? So it takes a lot of the original concepts of the Bitcoin white paper and actually implements them in a far more pragmatic and realistic way. So that's the kind of the use case for XRP to be similarly a sovereign decentralized mechanism for payments, similar to Bitcoin, in a way that can be operated outside of banks and the banking system, in a way that can't be censored, or transactions can't be seized, for example, on Bitcoin. So it shares a lot of the same qualities as Bitcoin.
Consider this. When central banks talk about creating a new system for global finance, they're essentially hinting at the end of traditional currencies altogether. They're working on a platform where money is no longer just a medium of exchange, but a dynamic, programmable asset. And guess which digital assets are best positioned for that kind of future? Yep, you guessed it, XRP and its peers. This isn't just theoretical, it's already in motion. Every time you hear about a so-called breakthrough in blockchain technology or digital payments, remember that it all ties back to what we're discussing today, the inevitable global plan that's about to shock every XRP holder. But wait, there's more. This isn't just about money flowing in a new direction, it's about power and control. It's about the elite, the true movers and shakers behind the global financial system, quietly pulling the strings. While the public is distracted by the roaring success stories of Bitcoin's meteoric rise and the relentless hype machine of Bitcoin maximalists, a far more calculated plan is unfolding. One of the most startling revelations comes from a meticulously gathered list of top Bitcoin holders. Look at the names: the US government, BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, MicroStrategy, and even some of the biggest crypto platforms like Kraken and Block.one. These aren't everyday investors. They're powerful institutions that have a vested interest in maintaining control over the financial narrative.
I think this is a criticism I might have made of Bitcoin maximalism some time ago too, right? That if you're just a small community, then if you say incredibly over-the-top things about how the US government is the primary source of all evil in the world and money printing is the reason why, we have some kind of military statist dystopia instead of, Switzerland-like happy land for everyone, then, you're going to turn off a lot of people who clearly kind of see through those attitudes and realize that there's a lot more complicated stuff going on in the world. But at the same time, there is going to be some portion of the population that really believes in the thing you believe or is really receptive to the thing you believe, and they're attracted to the passion with which you say it, and so they're going to want to come along with you.
Imagine the scenario when the established financial grid finally crumbles under the weight of its own outdated technology. These elite institutions are ready to swoop in and consolidate even more power. Bitcoin, in all its volatile glory, is nothing more than a red herring, a tool to manipulate market sentiment and maintain a facade of decentralization. The real game is happening behind closed doors. Let's dive deeper into the mechanics of this impending financial evolution. In a world where nearly everything is becoming digitized, from our bank accounts to our social interactions, the notion of physical currency is steadily losing its relevance. Central banks are increasingly exploring the concept of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, a move that could potentially make paper money obsolete. But here's the kicker. This isn't about creating a new version of cash. It's about developing an entirely new infrastructure for transactions that leverages cutting-edge blockchain technology. And while major digital currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum may be hailed as pioneers, they're fundamentally incapable of supporting the vast scale and real-time demands of a global digital economy.
So you can see my mug here. We got this from R3 at their headquarters in New York. We work with them. I'm telling you, in conversations with them, they have told us they will only use something that's regulated here in the US. And there's only two assets that have regulatory clarity here in the US. That's Bitcoin and XRP. Not XDC. They can settle through both. You're right. It's both. But there's got to be enough liquidity in the asset for it to settle, and it has to have regulatory clarity here in the US, and neither of those exist in XDC. So I'm going to say it's XRP, based on my conversations with R3 and what they've told us.
In this context, Ripple's XRP and similar projects emerge as the unsung heroes of the financial revolution. These projects were designed with scalability, speed, and efficiency in mind. Picture a digital payment system that processes thousands of transactions per second, where each transaction is recorded on an immutable ledger, ensuring transparency and reducing fraud. That's the promise of XRP, and it's this promise that the global elite recognize as the key to a new financial order, one where money is not merely a static asset, but a dynamic instrument capable of driving entire economies. I know what you might be thinking. Isn't this all just conspiracy theories dressed up in fancy technobabble? And I get it. There's so much noise out there that cutting through it can feel overwhelming. But let's take a step back. The facts are there, hidden in plain sight. A recent report from the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia highlighted just how manipulated Bitcoin and Ethereum prices have become. Their analysis indicated that the dramatic price spikes in Bitcoin were not driven by genuine market demand, but by a coordinated effort involving stablecoin tether volumes. This isn't just a minor glitch. It's a systemic manipulation that has artificial inflations built into the very fabric of the crypto markets.
What is XRP? It's the cryptocurrency powering Ripple, a network designed for super fast and low-cost global payments. Transactions take just 3 to 5 seconds and cost less than a fraction of a cent. Way cheaper and faster than Bitcoin or traditional banks. XRP is perfect for cross-border payments, helping banks save up to 60% on costs. While it faces challenges like regulatory uncertainty, its ability to scale up to 50,000 transactions per second shows massive potential.
And while these revelations might cause panic among die-hard Bitcoin supporters, they also pave the way for a clearer understanding of what the future holds. When we talk about scaling digital assets and revolutionizing the payment infrastructure, the conversation inevitably shifts to XRP and projects like it. These aren't subject to the same volatility and manipulation. They're built on a foundation of real-world utility, designed to handle the digital economy of tomorrow. Now, let's not forget the significant role of technology in this narrative. Think about it. We're at an inflection point where advanced algorithms, machine learning, and cutting-edge data analytics are not only optimizing financial transactions, but also fundamentally reshaping our understanding of value. For instance, take the concept of smart contracts, a brilliant innovation that has paved the way for a host of modern applications. When artists like Rihanna experiment with NFT royalties, or when athletes tokenize their future earnings, they're leveraging this technology to create entirely new revenue models that bypass traditional intermediaries. This isn't just a trend, it's the foundation of what a new digital-first economy will look like.
We had news the other day that Ripple XRP has enabled smart contracts on their blockchain. And ultimately this is huge because this means tokenization can take place directly on XRP's ledger, XRPL. Now, I was lucky enough to interview Graham, the CEO of Archax, that spoke about his excitement on the back end of their partnership with Ripple about tokenizing money market funds and actually using them as a form of payments, which of course Ripple is a global leader in. All roads lead to Jerusalem, ladies and gentlemen. This is very much the case with Ripple and thus XRP. Stablecoins are just one aspect of what Ripple is going to enable with XRP. World of value of tomorrow actually take place. They're going to be what sees everything move around. So the remittance of all of this value take place. So if you think about this world that we're moving towards in regards to tokenized assets, a lot of that is going to take place on Ripple.
But there's another side to this story that's equally fascinating. Let's talk about how the very institutions that have long championed Bitcoin as the future are now turning their sights elsewhere. The same Wall Street giants, the very institutions that once dismissed XRP as just another altcoin, are now exploring ways to integrate scalable blockchain technology into their global financial operations. It's as if they've been playing both sides of the fence all along, publicly hailing Bitcoin while privately investing in technologies that promise real-world applications. And the irony is as thick as it gets. The narrative that Bitcoin is king, it's nothing more than a convenient distraction from what's truly coming: the rise of a comprehensive digital transaction system capable of handling the entire world's money. It becomes clear that the stage is being set for a historic reset. Imagine a financial world where traditional currencies crumble under the weight of their own obsolescence, making way for a system built from the ground up on efficiency, transparency, and the seamless flow of digital capital. Now, toss in the fact that major players like BlackRock and the US government are not only deeply invested in this transition, but are actively orchestrating it. The convergence of state power, corporate might, and cutting-edge technology makes for a scenario that's as thrilling as it is terrifying.
I think that you will spend 40,000 hours of your life, maybe 60,000 hours of your life trying to make money. It is worthwhile to spend 100 hours of your life figuring out how to keep it and figuring out what it is and thinking about that. So most people won't. Most people they'll just go do something because their friend told them to do it. But if you do it for a shallow reason, you'll probably panic and sell it or do the wrong thing or get confused by another shallow reason. So I think that the best investment anybody can make is go spend 100 hours, studying Bitcoin, then study economics, then study the, history of money, and then think for yourself.
What do you think this all means for the future of finance? How will the old guard react when their decades-old system finally crumbles under the weight of its own obsolescence? And if Bitcoin is simply the bait, will you be ready to grab hold of the real opportunity when it arrives? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This conversation is just getting started.